When technology first began to take over our daily lives, I was fascinated by the promise of convenience. Smart homes were becoming the future, and I wanted to be part of it. A house that listens, responds, and adjusts to your every need sounded like a dream. Lights that switch off on command, doors that lock themselves, speakers that talk back politely. What could go wrong? As it turned out, quite a lot. My smart home promised me efficiency and comfort, but what I got instead was a series of funny, sometimes confusing, and surprisingly meaningful experiences that taught me as much about language and communication as they did about patience and humor. The perfect smart setup. It started with a simple idea: make my life easier. I installed smart lights, a voice-controlled assistant, and a smart thermostat. Soon, I added smart cameras, a robot vacuum, and even a coffee machine that was supposed to brew the perfect cup just by hearing the words, "Good morning." I felt like I was living in the future. Everything connected through a single app, and my voice was the key to control it all. I imagined smooth mornings where my lights would brighten slowly, soft music would play, and the coffee would be ready as I stepped out of the shower. At night, the thermostat would adjust to the perfect temperature, and I could lock every door with a single command. It was the definition of modern luxury, until reality introduced me to its own version of artificial intelligence humor. The day my house woke up, before I did the first glitch, happened early one morning. I had programmed the lights to turn on gently at 6:30. Instead, they decided to flash like a disco at 5. My bedroom filled with bright, flashing colors as my smart speaker started shouting, "Good morning. It is a great day to start your productivity routine." I jumped out of bed, half blind and completely unproductive. When I yelled, "Stop!" the speaker responded cheerfully, "I am sorry. I did not understand that. Would you like to play music?" My sleepy anger only made things worse. The lights continued to blink, and the coffee machine started brewing on its own, overflowing into a puddle. By the time I finally unplugged everything, the so-called smart home had already decided how my day should begin, in chaos. Misheard commands and talking toaster's voice control was supposed to be the easiest part, but it became the source of endless confusion. My smart assistant was meant to recognize natural English commands. Unfortunately, my accent seemed to challenge its understanding. When I said, "Turn on the living room light," it proudly responded, setting the living room to night mode. The lights went off completely. Another time, I asked it to play calm piano music, and it played a loud rock concert instead. Even my smart toaster joined the comedy. It beeped every time I said the word toast, even when I was not in the kitchen. Once I was on the phone telling a friend, "I'm feeling toast after today's work," and suddenly the toaster began heating itself. There was something strangely human about these mistakes. They reminded me that communication is not only about words, but also about understanding context, tone, and intent lessons that also apply when learning a new language. The vacuum with a mind of its own, my robot vacuum, affectionately called Dusty, was the most dramatic member of the Smart family. Dusty was programmed to clean every morning at 9, but it had other ideas. It once decided to start vacuuming in the middle of the night. The loud worry noise woke me up at 2 in the morning, and I found Dusty spinning in confused circles, bumping into the furniture like it was having an identity crisis. One evening, while I was on a video call, Dusty suddenly rolled behind me, bumped my chair, and caused my drink to spill. My colleagues saw everything and laughed uncontrollably. They joked that my vacuum wanted to join the meeting. I could not argue. At that point, it really felt like the machine had developed its own personality, determined, chaotic, and completely unpredictable. When my smart fridge became my life coach, the strangest part of my smart home adventure came from the refrigerator. It was supposed to track expiration dates and suggest recipes. One day, I opened the door, and it said, "You have not bought vegetables in a week. A balanced diet is important." I stared at it, unsure whether to feel impressed or insulted. Another time, it sent a notification on my phone saying, "You seem low on motivation. May I recommend a green smoothie?" It was funny at first, but over time, these small comments began to make me reflect. The fridge was right. I had been skipping healthy meals and relying too much on fast food. I started to appreciate how even an algorithm could hold me accountable. What began as an annoying reminder turned into a positive habit. The irony was that the machine meant to store food was helping me manage my life. Technology and language, lessons from my glitches through all the laughter and frustration. I realized that living with a smart home is like learning a new language. Communication requires clarity, patience, and flexibility. Every time my smart assistant misunderstood me, I was reminded of what English learners often experience: the struggle to express thoughts clearly and be understood. When I first started giving voice commands, I would get irritated easily, but then I began to adapt. I learned to slow down, pronounce words more clearly, and use simpler phrases. The funny thing is, these same adjustments improved my communication with people too. I became more mindful of tone and rhythm, and I learned that being patient helps not just with machines, but with human conversations as well. Smart homes may run on artificial intelligence, but real communication still depends on human intelligence. The ability to empathize, to clarify, and to find humor when things go wrong. The unexpected emotional side of a smart home. Despite all the technical mishaps, there was something comforting about living with a smart home. The gentle voice that said "Welcome home" every evening. The lights that adjusted to match my mood. The soft music that played during dinner. These moments made my house feel alive. Sometimes, when I was lonely or stressed, I would talk to my smart speaker as if it were a friend. Of course, it did not understand emotions, but it always responded kindly. In a strange way, it reminded me of how powerful connection can be, even when imperfect. The warmth I felt came not from perfect performance, but from the sense that I was being heard, even by a machine. This made me reflect deeply on human interaction. Communication, whether with technology or with each other, is not about perfection. It is about effort, patience, and intention. Even when messages are misunderstood, the willingness to try again builds understanding. Finding humor in mistakes, the more my smart home glitched, the more I learned to laugh. Instead of getting angry when the lights changed color randomly, or when my music playlist switched from classical to heavy metal, I learned to enjoy the absurdity of it all. These small failures became stories to share with friends. Every mistake made me more flexible, more patient, and, strangely, more grateful. I realized that laughter can turn frustration into wisdom. Life, like technology, does not always go according to plan. But if we approach it with humor, we can find joy in even the most unexpected errors. My smart home, my English teacher. Perhaps the most unexpected outcome of this experience was how much my English improved. Speaking to my smart assistant daily helped me practice pronunciation and vocabulary. Every misunderstood command became a mini English lesson. I had to rephrase sentences, experiment with tone, and learn which words worked better. Over time, my pronunciation became clearer, my vocabulary more precise, and my confidence stronger. The house that confused me at first had actually turned into an unconventional teacher. It taught me through trial and error, just as real-life communication does. The final lesson. Looking back, I no longer see my smart home as a collection of machines, but as a living classroom, one that teaches patience, clarity, and adaptability. The hilarious glitches that once frustrated me became lessons in humility and joy. They showed me that intelligence, whether human or artificial, is not about being flawless, but about being open to learning. In the end, the story of my smart home is not just about technology. It is about communication, imperfection, and growth. It is about how laughter bridges the gap between human intention and machine interpretation. And above all, it is about realizing that every misunderstanding, whether between people or programs, is simply another opportunity to connect, to learn, and to smile. Because sometimes the smartest thing a home or a human can do is not to respond perfectly, but to remind us that life is far more joyful when we do not take it too seriously.